Augusto Antonio Alves Salgado, Director, Museo de Marina, Lisbon, Portugal. A very warm welcome to you, sir, this afternoon. And we have Mr. W. Rahotan, archaeologist, Underwater Archaeology, Department of Fine Arts, Ministry of Culture, Thailand. Okay, so welcome, gentlemen and madam. All those who have just walked in, do ensure your cell phones are on the silent as I invite Dr. Chandra Bhushan Kumar, Chief Secretary, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, for the keynote address. Over to you, sir.
Hope this is audible. Okay. Okay. So any kind of PPT is going to be uploaded somewhere, something?
Let me check.
Yeah.
I'll help you.
Yeah, because there is a small PPT. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
We're trying to arrange.
Okay, no issue. If it is not, then no issue. Nowadays you can use your phone to cover up that kind of thing. Okay. So very good afternoon to all of you, and I'm sitting amidst this kind of very coveted experts from across the globe, talking about something which is part of our history. And it's not only maritime history, it's a kind of history which we have lived for centuries kind of thing. And I am not going to talk about some kind of very expert area related to this issue. I am going to talk about how we have the shared civilization and what kind of legacy we cherish. And when I talk about here we talk about the whole globe. It's not only our country, India, but it's also all other countries who were connected in the past also, and even today in different ways kind of thing. So when we talk about maritime heritage, shared civilization, legacy, the topic for today's this afternoon session, the first and foremost thing which comes to our mind is related to almost what was recorded in the oral text in ancient times related to ocean, related to maritime and all those things. Most of historians of ancient world would be very, very knowledgeable about those things. That earlier in those era, this was very, very part of our discourses that, okay, maritime is very, very integral to our, in fact, earth. And how civilizations have prospered, how civilizations have interacted with each other. This has been part of our history. If I recall from our Indian ancient past, from that particular era, we had the connect with our neighborhood in terms of Southeast Asia or Central Asia or Europe from that particular point of view. And people have recorded of those era, they recorded about those connects. And so I start with, I have some very beautiful pictures from Andaman Nicobar Islands related to this particular presentation. I hope sometimes it just get uploaded. So Rigveda fourth mandal says that all the universe rests within your nature, in the ocean, in the heart, in all life. So it has been part of our being on the earth itself. And that was the kind of acknowledgement which was there. I I serve in Andaman Nicobar Islands, and it's very interesting to look at the mythology, which was also prevalent, known in fact in 19th century, and it was recorded this Anthropological Journal of Britain and Ireland in 1877. They recorded very interestingly about Andaman Nicobar Island, and they said that the people in general from India, they remember these islands from a very, very important mythological story. And what they say that when Bhagwan Ram, God Ram, when he decided to build a bridge to reach to Ravana to bring back his wife, then he started building the bridge. And in the midway, then Vibhishan, the brother of Ravan, he said that no, this is not where Ravan is residing currently. He is residing in somewhere else, which is Lanka, and so you abandon this and we start from Rameshwaram. So this whole exercise which was there, it was abandoned. And the mythology says that those abandoned pillars, those abandoned areas are now form Andaman Nicobar Island. This is part of the mythology which was recorded in 1877. I am quoting from that particular thing. And so Andaman Nicobar Island, thou far almost from the so-called coastline, mainland coastline, almost 1200 kilometers away. But this has been there. Now, when we look at the attempt during early 20th century, there was a journal which was started by Mr. Kalidas Nag and his colleague. And this was a Greater India Journal, Journal of Greater India. And 1934, the first publication of that particular journal came. And the foreword of that particular journal was written by Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. And he records there in the foreword, to know my country in truth, one has to travel to that age when she realized her soul and thus transcended her physical boundaries, when she revealed her being in a radiant magnanimity which illuminated the eastern horizon, making her recognized as their own by those in alien shores who were awakened into a great surprise of life. So this was recorded by Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore in that particular journal, the first journal. It survived till mid-1950s, that journal. And the foreword was recorded by him. So we also have habitation on these islands for very long period from the history. And we have 6 particularly vulnerable tribe groups. And these tribes have kept their folk tales, the culture, which is reflected through those folk tales. This is very well documented nowadays also. And where they talk about how nature culture connect was there in those societies in these islands. When we come to that particular era, then we always remember the spice route, because the whole connect was basically premised on this spice trade kind of thing. And it was there before Christ era also, in fact, and it has been recorded by a lot of historians, particularly like Pliny. He recorded that what kind of trade connect was there. And what kind of things were getting exported, imported from India to other locations in the world. And spices was particularly very, very important part of this whole thing. So in the first century, the Roman, this historian Pliny described the allure and value of paper. We know that the paper, the black gold of those era. Why do we like it so much? He questions that. Some food attract by sweetness, some by their appearance, but neither the pod nor the berry of the paper has anything to be said for it. We only want it for its bite. And we will go to India to get it. That is the record, he says, and it has been reported in a book, Sea and Prosperity, Civilizations and the Maritime History of the World, recently. So this was a kind of trade connect with the Southeast Asia, with Central Asia, with Europe and all those. It was a shared prosperity. And then one historian records that the trade was driven by the human desire for the exotic manufactured goods, precious stones, metal ores, unusual animals and spices. In particular, the spices cinnamon, ginger, and pepper came to generate the lion's share of profit to the merchants willing to tackle the treacherous sea journeys. The movement of these spices came to be known as the spice route and eventually spanned 15,000 kilometers from the west coast of Japan through the islands of Indonesia around India to the Middle East and across the Mediterranean to Europe. So this kind of trade environment was built around using maritime route particularly, and this was the shared experience of various countries, various area. All of us know very famous expedition of Cholas, which happened in 11th century AD, and when he goes to Southeast Asia, and he mentions the inscription in Tanjore mentions about a place called Nakkavaram, which we now know as the Nicobar kind of thing. And it has also been subsequently captured by Marco Polo, earlier by Itzing and Huensang, and all those people have also captured this. So all these things was going on particularly fine till say 15th, 16th century. Then the era of disruption came. Why I'm using the term disruption? Because it was not simple trade. It came with brute power, brute colonial mindset, that how you can control this trade completely. It was not shared vision kind of thing. And you'd be surprised to know that the Nicobar Islands were declared as New Denmark by the first Danish people when they came with the Danish East India Company. I hope it is there. Something is now working. Okay. But I think I can't see, so I can't refer it. Okay. No issue. You can move forward actually, because this is already I have covered. You go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, yes, just hold on. So this is the kind of colonial control which started from late 15th century, 16th century particularly, and 17th century, which saw its kind of presence. And it's a very interesting era for the world because spices, because they wanted to control that particular element. And I was very surprised to also learn about this nutmeg story, which later on most of you would have read through Nutmeg's Curse, the book written by Amitav Ghosh. And this nutmeg was very, it was considered that it has a power to cure black plague. And this was the desire that how do you control this deadly disease, which wiped out a kind of generations of people in Europe and those era. And then the search started, and they finally landed up. And then naturally, by that time, the maritime power was such that they could subjugate this area. And then the control happened. And when I look at Andaman Nicobar Island particularly, then from Danish to Portuguese to Dutch, and finally the British period came. But Andaman Nicobar Island also became infamous for one particular thing which is called Kala Pani. It's a kind of penal colony. It was considered that this is going to be a very interesting area to send somebody Kala Pani and all those things. So it became a kind of location also for grit, determination and courage of our freedom fighters who served their terms in those islands in those periods kind of thing. Interestingly, Andaman Nicobar Island was also used for extraction of resources. And from that particular history part, Chatham sawmill, which is at one time it was one of the biggest sawmill of the Asia in 19th century, and people claim that even the furniture made from that particular location is at present in the Buckingham Palace kind of thing. So that kind of extraction of resources also happened. And all this happened with the power, with the brute force. Please move to the slide. Next. So when they were bringing these people to for Kala Pani, serving Kala Pani, they were coming in the long ship journey, because it's a kind of 3-day journey today. It means you have to spend at least, if you are traveling by ship, then it will take you close to 60 hours to reach Sri Vijayapuram, Andaman Nicobar Island. So imagine in those days when technology was not that great, this was the kind of thing which was happening. Next, please. And interestingly, an interesting part of history is that in 1943, when the World War was happening, then Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose landed there, and first flag hoisting of the country, Azad Hind, was done there, kind of thing. So this is also a slice of history for all of us in those islands, actually. So how do we, this kind of background where we are looking at the trade which brought shared prosperity, then you have the colonial past which is very, very sinful and very brutal. So how do we look at our present and future in today's time? So we are looking at various aspects to capture those era and to also you can say that leverage today. So from the administration side, we have interestingly, we have started one particular scheme which is called a Spice Pravah. And these islands are having 3,400 millimeter average annual rainfall. It has at least 180 days of rain every year. So the equatorial geography, and that allows us to have this kind of spice production there. So we have launched this massive exercise of spice production in these islands. And we are hoping that in next 2 to 3 years, when these are getting matured, because imagine a particular clove, it has a life of 100 years. And the mortality rate in these spices are hardly 10 to 15% kind of thing. Similarly, cinnamon, nutmeg, and these can survive for those many years. And currently, we heavily dependent on import of these spices from outside. We consume these spices because these are part of our daily food habit, but we have to import it. So that kind of opportunity we are looking at. In the process, we also want to relive the spice era which was there. Now, we are looking at also the heritage tourism part. Cellular Jail was declared on the tentative UNESCO World Heritage List in 2011. And we are looking at a kind of heritage circuit there, which will allow us to have better tourism facility also, and also as a part of remembrance that how our history has shaped us. Similarly, when we look at our natural beauty in those locations, India's only active volcano, which is the Barren Island volcano, survives there, and currently it is active. So recently on 24th of October, we took a cruise of tourists and 125 children to that particular location in the night to look at how the lava is coming out of this active volcano, to give a kind of life experience to people and particularly our children. And this we are going to do fortnightly. So every fortnight we are going to do this activity in those islands to have that kind of. We have more than 30 endemic birds in those areas. So plenty of nature. We are pitching it like a global scuba diving destination for the world. So this is a kind of maritime resources which is available there, which can be exploited and which can be showcased to the world also. Next. Interestingly, the tribe, one particular tribe is a Nicobari, and they have this hodi. This is a kind of hodi which is canoe, and so one log canoe. If you happen to visit to Rashtriya Manav Sangrahalaya in Bhopal, this is almost kind of 50 feet of length canoe is lying there, that is coming from that location. That kind of a skill set those people are having. Administration has also gone in one particular area which is called the GI tagging. And we have already done 7 products of these islands which are having a GI tagging. In the previous slide, those were there. So it also has the virgin coconut oil, which is very, very different kind of composition. We have a kind of curry, black rice. Then we have hodi, and we have mat, Nicobari mat. All these are very indigenous product there, locally there, and which can easily be showcased anywhere we want to have in our museum kind of location. So what we are looking at when we talk about National Maritime Heritage Museum in the country or anywhere else in the world, what we want to present there, which is going to remind us and the future generation about how we have reached here and what kind of suggestion we are there. So tradition, craft, cuisine, trade, tourism, and of course sites. We have a number of archaeologists on this particular panel. They are going to talk about those archaeological evidences and all those things. So all this is part of our maritime heritage. And Andaman Nicobar Islands are very, very integral to this maritime heritage history of the country and the world. And whenever we have traveled in the past to the Southeast Asia region, or we look at our colonial past, we always remember Swarna Deepa, this is kind of thing which we have remembered and all those things. It has gone through those islands and all those things. It has still those memories, and it is part of the traditions and the culture which is reflected there. And this Lothal, which we are having, the National Maritime Heritage Museum coming up, Andaman Nicobar Islands very actively participating in that particular, I think we are coming up in the phase 2 for that particular area. And there we will have the possibility to showcase the kind of thing which I have just demonstrated before you, that how we have prospered in the past when we have shared, when our trade were on the equal footing, when we exchange with each other on equal footing, and that has created the legacy. In between, there was disruption. That also we need to remember, because that is very important for the future, to know that what can go wrong and what can cause disruption for the all. And with this, I just end my comments related to this particular thing, and I leave it for the moderator and the panelists to come forward with their views. If you permit me, then I can sit there and then I can watch, because I was not part of the panel. So I have just given the opening points related to this issue, and to give you an overview and where the Andaman Nicobar Island is situated or positioned in this whole discourse. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar, for sharing your thoughts with us this afternoon. Also, giving us some very interesting anecdotes from mythology and history, adding to our knowledge basket. The second keynote address will come from Dr. K. Manivasan, Additional Chief Secretary, TC and RE Department, Tamil Nadu. Dr. Manivasan.
Good afternoon to all of you. I'm Dr. Manivasan. I'm Additional Chief Secretary in charge of tourism, religious endowment, that is all the temples and Jain temples of Tamil Nadu, museums, archaeology, and also the art and culture. And as we know, India has been in maritime history for a very long time, since Indus Valley civilization, which goes at least 3000 BC, the trade with Mesopotamia, the coastal ports, extensive network of ports there. And second, the dynamic trade relationship that India had with the Western world, with Rome, Greece, and all the European cultures, ancient European cultures there on one side. And the Southeast Asian, the Far East Asian countries. China is also a very important partner for India in the dynamic trade and cultural relationship. And as I am from Tamil Nadu, which played a very critical and crucial role in shaping up these dynamics of trade, political, and also the cultural impact. Not only India received cultural input from other countries, we contributed a lot of things to the civilizations, both Western and the Eastern side. I think I will not talk much about it, which is already well documented about the Roman trade, how the Pliny talked about depleting the golden reserves of Rome by trading with India. Various interesting facts about the ancient ports of western side and also the Coromandel coast. One or two aspects only I would like to talk about it. We all talk about all these things, starting with the Indus, going up to colonial powers and their relationship. The less talked about subject is the prehistoric time evolution of the shared communities. That is very important, because as the Chief Secretary of Andaman's remarked about the community's role and the local coastal community's role in fishing or in movement of the people and the cargo, we are yet to study the role of the prehistoric humans, how these tribals landed far away in the Andaman Nicobar Islands is a case study, an example. How the certain millets, which is very common in peninsular India, like sorghum, pearl millet or finger millet, which is native to Africa, landed up here. And many Pacific Island communities, the prehistoric communities, how they developed their craft. I think these are the lesser areas, I think, as a marine historian, we have to study more on that. And the second aspect is on more explorations on the land related to these maritime histories. We have to do more. Already a lot of things are happening there. I think Michael Pearson, in his study on Indian Ocean Studies, He says that this study has to be an amphibious one, not looking at this maritime history sitting on the land, but you have to see from the other side. It basically a study of the maritime culture, and it is an amphibious one, looking at both sides. I think we have to do a lot of studies on these particular explorations and the shipwrecks. I think in India, the study of the shipwreck is not much done actually. The problems are known because lack of resources is very expensive, and that is one of the key reasons why we are not taking. But there is a lot of potential on the shipwrecks. In fact, very recently the Danish government approached the Tamil Nadu government. There is a Danish shipwreck near the port of Tranquebar, the only complete full shape Danish port in the country. They have approached us. And very recently we completed our underwater exploration near Pumbuhar. In ancient time, it is a very famous port city, which mentioned in a glorious terms by the Sangam literatures. So I think these two areas only, I think we have to focus on that. I will not repeat many things. Tamil Nadu played a very key role in that one. As an expert, we all know that starting with the religious thing, the Buddhist travelers went from here to spread Buddhism to other countries, particularly in the China and Southeast Asian countries and Sri Lanka. Similarly, Chinese scholars, both they traversed through land as well as through to maritime route. They landed in India. These cultural interfaces were going on for a very long time, particularly from Tamil Nadu. The legacy of Bodhidharma, who was a Kanji Pallava young prince, who traveled to first to Java, then on to China, who went on to create a Zen Buddhism, is well known, very interesting facts. Even today, I mean, one of the very common thing I used to think for myself, the lungi is very famous in the Madras checks and other things, very famous in Tamil Nadu. It's a very common culture, starting with Indonesia, Sarang, then Bangladesh, all the coastal sides, Sri Lanka, everywhere, Burma you have. I feel that there is a common thread on this cultural aspect. Similarly, even the idli dosa, which is a symbol of Tamil Nadu, till recently idli is not there in Tamil Nadu thing. Probably it came from somewhere else, either from Arab traders or from the Southeast Asian countries only. Our literature do not talk about such food till very recently. So a lot more needs to be done on the culinary side also. We would have imbibed a lot from these maritime traditions. So with this short speech, I am very happy to see eminent personalities from different countries, also from India. Definitely will be a very interesting discussion from their side. We are looking forward to your interesting discussion today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Manivasan, for your valuable insights, adding value to our enriching experience since morning. And now let us dive straight into the panel discussion on shared civilizations and legacy. I will hand over charge to our session moderator, Professor Dr. Vasant Shinde, Chief of Galleries, National Maritime Heritage Complex. Dr. Shinde, over to you.
So good afternoon to one and all. Honorable the Joint Secretary of Ministry of Port, Shipping and Waterways, the Deputy Secretary, Mr. Semwal, the Director, Managing Director, Indian Ports Rail and Ropeway Corporation Limited, very senior archaeologists and the historians, respected Chief Secretary of Andaman Nicobar, and also from Tamil Nadu. So friends, on behalf of the ministry and on behalf of IPCR, I invite you and welcome you all here for this particular session. So we have a big panel here and we have limited time. Just to give a brief impact of why India has developed maritime contact with outside world and how India has has spread in fact the knowledge system all over the world. And also, a lot of things also ideas have come from outside. So that part, we are showcasing, of course, in the Maritime Museum that is coming up at Lothal. And Lothal, of course, as all of you know that, it has a historical background. The world's earliest dockyard is found at Lothal. And also, Lothal was the first, in fact, to connect, with the West. the Indians, in fact, first connected with the Oman, with the Persian Gulf, and then they went up to Egypt. And, that is the beginning of the maritime trade in the Indian subcontinent. But, the difference between the Egyptians, we have a friend from Egypt here, Egyptians and the Indians. When I say Indians, that, Harappans are considered to the founders of the Indian culture and the heritage. The difference is that, they had the different system, in fact, in Egypt and Mesopotamia. They are the monarchical system, and all the development that happened there, that was all, maybe revolved around the, monarchical system. Whereas India had, right from the beginning, we had the democratic system, and, whatever development happened here, that was for the common people. So we developed, very, flourishing contact with the West, and we were literally plundering them. In fact, we used to get so much wealth from there, and that wealth was not wasted, not buried, in fact, in the royal tombs or in the tombs, not wasted, in fact, in creating such kind of monuments which were of no use to the common people. But Harappans have used, in fact, that wealth for creating very good infrastructure for the common people. That is the difference. And we, right from the beginning, we are connected to the world, and a lot of ideas were spread, in fact, from India to outside and from outside to India. So that is very, very important. And along with the trade, we also have spread a lot of our art and architecture, our heritage also has spread. In fact, our religions and the languages also have spread to different parts of the world. So fortunately, we have a panel of experts from different countries. So I will start with my friend from Egypt, because we have the earliest contact with Egypt, going back to almost 4,500 years. And we know that the Egyptians had developed a weakness for the Indian goods, particularly the jewelry that was made here, the jewelry of the semi-precious stone, even jewelry of gold, and also ivory and shell. So these were the things which were exported from India to the Egypt. And most of the royal tombs found in Egypt, there are large number of Indian jewelry, in fact, buried along in them. And Dr. Ahmad is doing a lot of work, in fact, in Egypt, particularly in the southern part of Egypt. And he has also excavated a number of sites. He's an archaeologist. So maybe I will start with him, and I would like to know, what was the nature of the contact between India and Egypt right from the beginning of the, maybe Harappan civilization?
مساء الخير. In Egypt, we say مساء الخير. It means good evening or good afternoon. مساء الخير. Yeah, I have to say. مساء الخير. مساء الخير. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency the Minister, it is great honor and true believing to stand before you today in the Bristol gathering. I am so happy to be in India. This is the first time for me, really. And I see the new agriculture, it's very kind people, very lovely. This is the first time here in India. Before yesterday, I was in museum for Mumbai, and I see the mummification. Yeah. We have in Egypt a Luxor temple, and in the West Bank, Valley of the Queen and Valley of the Kings. Cleopatra and Hatshepsut, Nefertiti, there is a famous woman and a very love story in Egypt. And also we have the tomb for Ramses II, Ramses III, Amenhotep, Hor Moheb, Miriam Betah. I see the mummies here and the same the mummies in Egypt exactly. When someone dead, we make operation here. We take the stomach. I am so sorry about the words. Yeah. We take the stomach and the hearts and the head inside. We put in the 4 pieces of battery canoe to all this to go inside of the tomb to another life. A museum here, I see the same really mummification in Egyptian. This is the link between Egypt and India. And also, I see the galleries of silver and the gold and earring, everything the same. Egypt, we have about 5,000 years old ago. We have a lot of temples and museums and the tomb. And also, we link of India, of Berenice. You say Berenica here, yeah? Berenica of Qusayr. This is the Red Sea, because in the 5,000 years ago, the Egyptian people take from Indian people, they take the spices and the galleries and the glasses, and also we learn how to make a boat from Indian and take a wood from here. So I am so happy to be here, and I don't like to speak too much. I know you are boring. Yeah, and it's very nice, and thank you so much.
So thank you very much, my friend. Berenica, in fact, Berenice, which is talk about a very important port, which was developed on the, on the western coast of Egypt, through which, a lot of contact was happening with the Mediterranean and the European countries, in fact. So that was a stopway, very important stop, gap for these mariners. And also, as he mentioned that, that both, in fact, Egypt and India has a shared culture, in fact, shared legacy. And also, we have a lot of common, maybe shared heritage that, we celebrate today. So thank you very much for this. Next, I will go to Nia, because Nia is from Indonesia. And we know that, Indonesia and India has a great connection, in fact. And right from the 3rd century BC onward, we have very strong connection. And a lot of, maybe elements have traveled across, like, the Indian art and architecture, religions, even the philosophies, they have traveled across. And she has been doing, great work in fact, in Indonesia, working on the India-Indonesian contact. So we would like to know more about, about the India and Indonesia contact, and what things were coming from there, in fact, because we know that, what things were going from here to there, but maybe we have very little idea about, what things were coming from there to India. Maybe you would like to enlighten us on that? Thank you.
I have no idea about that. But yeah, thanks, Professor Sinde, for the opportunity. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Nia Ridwan. I'm underwater archaeologist working in the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries for 20 years now. So just a little bit background. In Indonesia, we have, the scholars estimated that we have about 3,000 shipwreck sites, the underwater cultural heritage, and that is spans from ancient kingdoms until the Second World War. So this is our responsibility in the Ministry of Marine to research, preserve, protect, and also manage the underwater heritage lying in our waters. But here, because this is about India Maritime Week, so I would like to reflect on the deep and enduring maritime connections between India and Indonesia. So these two nations, we already know that we bound not only by the waters of the Indian Oceans, but also by shared histories, trade, cultures, and also faiths or cosmology and religious things. And the sea is not a barrier, but it is a bridge and carrying traders, monks, sailors, and ideas across the Indian Ocean. The maritime routes that link the Bay of Bengal, Malacca Peninsula, Malay Peninsula, the Arabian Sea, and the Java Sea form one of the world's earliest and most dynamic cultural and commercial networks. We know about that, right? and that is shaping the civilization of both sides of the ocean. One of the most remarkable early connections emerged through this maritime network is in Indonesia, we have a Sriwijaya Kingdom, that is the great maritime powers at the time from the 7th until 13th centuries. And I was so happy when I visited Nalanda about 13 years ago, and I saw in Nalanda there is a signage that Indian government put saying this is the monastery #1 built by Sriwijaya King Raja Balaputra Dewa. So I was so proud at the time. I thank Indian government to put that, like this is like a legacy and show the connection between Indonesia and India in the 7th until 13th century. So yeah, so we believe that at the time our king, the Sriwijaya kingdom, maintained a close ties, close relationship with the Pala dynasty. Perhaps at the time that is Dharmapala or Dewapala, they granted the land to establish a Buddhist monastery at Nalanda. So this act really symbolized the shared spiritual and intellectual bond between India and Indonesia, where religion, scholarships, and diplomacy intertwine through the maritime connection. So the relationship between India and Sriwijaya extended further south, reaching the Chola kingdom in Tamil Nadu, if I'm not wrong. And yeah, this is one of the greatest maritime empire, I believe. And this Chola and Sriwijaya at the time, both of them are the very powerful maritime powers in Indian Ocean. And the King Rajendra Chola I attacked Sriwijaya right in the heart of Sriwijaya capital in Palembang, now in South Sumatra. So this is show how the powers of naval fleet, Indian naval fleet at the time. Yeah, even though this is the conflict, but it showed we share the same history, even though that is like reflects both rivalry and also reciprocity. So this political and religious connection were parallel by artistic and architectural influences. I believe that you all perhaps heard about Borobudur Temple, that is the Buddhist temple in Indonesia, and Prambanan Temple, that is the Hindu temple in Indonesia. And this is demonstrate how Indian cosmological ideas and aesthetics were adapted in local Indonesian form, creating a unique Southeast Asia expression of a sacred space. And Sanskrit inscription motifs, epics like Ramayana, Mahabharata really incorporated in our life. Even until today, you know, if you go to Indonesia, you can find so many people with the names inspired from Mahabharata and Ramayana. So you can find the name like Vishnu, so many people with Vishnu name, Rama, Sita, Sinta, Baruna, Surya, Chandra, Indra. We can find all of them. And from Mahabharata efforts, we can find like Arjun, Bima, we call that Bima in Indonesia, and Yudhishthira. The one that we don't have is Duryodhan and Dusasan names. We don't have about that. And Sakuni, of course. So what does it mean? It means that in Indonesia, the people knows the story of the Mahabharata and Ramayana, right? So they gave the name of their children, they took that from Mahabharata and Ramayana. So, and they know that Sakuni and Dursasan and Duryodhan is bad people. So we don't give the name, their name to our children. So this is still happen until now in Indonesia. It's very common to have the name inspired by from these two efforts. So and because I'm underwater archaeologist, I would like to speak a bit about the archaeological discoveries from underwater. So in Indonesia, we have a Cirebon shipwreck. Perhaps later you can find that on the website. The Cirebon shipwreck is the shipwreck found in the Java Sea, and that is from 10th century. and it carries about 250,000 artifacts, consisted of the ceramics, glasswares, and including glass and carnelian beads from India, perhaps the glass beads, and also we got like 1,000 of emeralds, agate, carnelian, and we believe that is from India. And we found that in our underwater site in the depth of 50 until 60 meters. So this is one of the biggest underwater finding. We found that in 2005. So we invite the scholars from India, if you are interested with the shipwreck cargoes from Indonesia that bring the cargoes from India. So it can be like a very nice research about that, because this is from underwater. And also, I would like to ask the technical staff, would you please to show the screen with all the panelists, and there is a small boat there. The screen with the panelists, and there is one boat there. Would you please to show them to all the... I just want the audience see the boat. Try to incorporate maritime heritage with the daily life now of the communities. So we want to reconnect the maritime heritage with the community. So you can see, sorry, I'm not a model, but I want to show you. This is from my project now. So that boat, what is the boat? So the to use the shipwreck site, our people, they make this production and they sell it, and from the sale they give like 10% from the 10% from the sale to the village, to the community. So this really heritage can benefit the local people. So I really want to talk later with Professor Sinde, because in this I'm very happy that in India now established this National Maritime Heritage Complex. India really need this one. Because, you know, I was the chair of the conference for Asia Pacific Conference on Maritime and Underwater Heritage, but we don't really have so many people from India working in underwater and maritime heritage. So that's why I'm personally so happy. India now has this National Maritime Heritage Complex. So it offers the opportunity later in the future for joint collaboration for research, preservation, protection between India and Southeast Asia, because we share this maritime heritage, and also with the Asian countries. So yeah, that's from me, and thank you for inviting me.
So thank you very much, Nia. I'm sure that, you know, whatever data, that new data that you have, that will be incorporated in the National Maritime Heritage Complex at Lothal. So thank you for the new input regarding. So friends, you know, just to go to the other, before going to the other panelists, I would like to mention that, you know, we are developing, we are showcasing the 5,000 years of maritime history at one place in Lothal, and the heritage of all the coastal states and the coastal unit territories. And the data that we have collected is all purely based on hardcore research, not from Wikipedia or Google. So it is hardcore research that, you know, we have collected. And, you know, we have taken help of these scholars from India and also from outside. Some of them also had come to Delhi in December, and they have given us a lot of input. So that is how, you know, we are preparing this, this particular, museum. And I'm really thankful to you for giving this, very important insight about this new data that we have. So we have another friend from Thailand. His name is Rahotan. He's associated with the Ministry of Tourism and Culture in Thailand. And friends, I would like to mention that, Thailand has a very strong bond with India. And particularly the Indian names, maybe some of the traditions are showcased, in a big way in Thailand. If you, land on the Bangkok airport, you'll see the, big Samudra Manthan, sculpture there. And also the Ramayana is so popular in Thailand. So maybe you would like to know more about, this Indian presence in Thailand, and maybe your research on the underwater archaeology that you are doing in Thailand. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Cindy. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a profound honor to be here in Mumbai, a city whose very heart beats in rhythm with the sea, to celebrate Maritime Heritage Day. Today, I wish to journey back in time across the Andaman Sea to explore the deep and enduring maritime bonds that have connected India and Thailand for millennia. Our shared history begins with geography. The Andaman Sea was never a barrier. It was a bridge. And the engine of this connection was the predictable monsoon winds, a natural force harnessed by ancient mariners for both our lands. They were drawn eastward, not just by currents, but by the powerful idea, the quest for Suvarnabhumi, the fabled land of gold, and a testament to the riches, both material and spiritual, that awaited across the waves. This quest is not mere legend. It is etched into our very soil of Thailand. Archaeological sites along the Gra Isthmus, like Khao Sam Keo and Klong Thom, have revealed themselves as bustling multicultural hubs for exchange. Here we find Indian pottery, Roman intaglios, and countless beads of carnelian and agate. For years, we believed these were simply imports, but recent science tells a more complex story, one of shared technology where local artisans adopted Indian techniques to create their own unique ornaments. Perhaps the most vivid snapshots of this connected world come from the time capsules found beneath the waves and earth, ancient shipwreck. A prime example is the Pak Khong Kloi shipwreck discovered near the ancient port of Phu Khao Thong in Ranong province, dating to the 1st century CE. This transoceanic vessel is a powerful symbol of the long-distance trade that defined the era. Its presence points to the bustling maritime network that carried goods from distant lands to the shores of Thailand. In nearby coastal hubs of the same period, archaeologists have unearthed a wealth of foreign artifacts, including distinctive Indian knobware vessels, high-status items often associated with ritual practices. Century later, another vessel, the Phnom Sarin shipwreck, tells a different story. This was the Arab-Persian Dhow, the Sonplang ship discovered deep inland from today's coastline. Its cargo was a microcosm of a globalized world of the 9th century. Torpedo jars from Persia, ceramics from Tang Dynasty China, and local Dwarwadi pottery from Thailand. This single vessel proves that Thailand was not a periphery, but a vital crossroads in the trading system that stretched from the Persian Gulf to the South China Sea. But the most profound cargo carried on this ship was invisible. Along with goods came ideas, faiths, and philosophies. Buddhism and Brahmanism traveled these same lanes, carried by monks and merchants alike. This spiritual exchange has left a living legacy that endures to this day. We see it in the solemnity of the Thai royal court, where Brahmanical rituals, whose lineages trace back to India, remain essential for ceremonies like the royal coronation. We hear it in the very language we speak. A significant portion of Thai vocabulary is beautifully woven with the threads of Pali and Sanskrit. This was not a passive reception, but a dynamic process of selection, adaptation, and synthesis that has enriched Thai culture immeasurably. Our shared maritime history, therefore, is not just a story of trade, but a deep cultural conversation that has lasted for over 2,000 years. It is a legacy written in stone, in language, and in living rituals. It is in this spirit of celebrating a shared past and an interconnected future that I wish to extend my heartfelt congratulations to the people and the government of India on the momentous occasion of the establishment of the National Maritime Heritage Complex at Lotao. It is truly fitting that this world-class institution, destined to be the largest of its kind, stands at the site of one of the world's earliest known docks from the great Harappan civilization. This visionary project, part of the Sagamala program, does more than preserve the past. It illuminates India's 4,500-year-old maritime legacy and the world and for the generations to come. May the National Maritime Heritage Complex serve as a beacon, inspiring a new generation of explorers, historians, and dreamers, and further strengthening the ancient maritime bonds that unite nations like India and Thailand across the great expanse of the sea. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Rautan. I'm happy to know that a lot of new archaeological sites are being excavated, even underwater explorations is happening, and the new data that you are generating, showing the Indian connection, that will be useful for our museum also. Maybe we will get some new data from your site, and we'll be able to update our museum galleries further. So thank you very much for this. Now we go beyond Southeast Asia. We have a friend from Korea, because Indians also had contact with Far East, with China, Korea, and Japan. And as far as Korea is concerned, we used to think that the contact happened only during the time the Ayodhya and the Korea contact happened in the historical period. But the new research, in fact, I was part of the research which we did, in fact, in collaboration with one Korean scientist. We also established that during the early Iron Age, maybe around 12th century BCE, there was a strong India and Korea contact, and the Koreans used to think that the iron technology has come from China, but actually it has gone from India. That was what in fact we had established, in fact, through our research. Maybe Dr. Kim is here, in fact. We would like to know from him more about this. And also, if we can talk about the India and the Ayodhya contact, maybe in the early strike period.
Uh, uh, uh. So there is around 2000 years ago, there is a legend. I think it is one of the earliest international marriage in Indian history. So one princess from Ayodhya came to Korea and she married with our one young princess. That princess family name was Kim, my first father. So maybe within my DNA, there are some mother DNA from Ayodhya. So I think this is important. This is a part of earliest international marriage story. So I can see many young Indian girls here. Please come to Korea and marry with young Korean boys. So we have one of earliest international marriage history between India and Korea. But interestingly, that legend period is around 2000 years before. That times our iron technology would come from India, especially megalithic South India. Then during that time, megalithic society was also very pluralist. So, megalithic iron technology and this earliest international marriage between India and Korea, which can be highlighted in Maritime Museum, as well as, of course, Buddhism. This is a two, everybody know, Buddhism reached Korea and Japan, and we, through the almost 1,700 years history of Korea is Buddhism. So you can highlight the Buddhist history from India to Korea. And especially today we are in Mumbai, I would like to introduce one very important historical event from India. Exactly 76 years ago today, 350 soldiers started sail from Mumbai. After 27 days on the ship, they reached Korea, 350 soldiers. Even during Korean War, they never killed any single Korean people. They were actually medical rescue team, 350 soldiers. They saved almost 2 lakh soldiers during Korea War. Actually, this is a kind of our historical memory about India. India is land of non-violence. So even recent history, they joined the Korean War, they saved people rather than join to war. So I think this is also important. So through the history between India and Korea, through Buddhism as well as other some cultural relationship. So this is another important some cultural relationship history in the world. I think that's important. So don't forget earliest international marriage. Thank you.
So, Kim, certainly, because as a part of our National Maritime Heritage Complex, we are also establishing the National Maritime, Research Institute, and we have already planned a research. In fact, we have scientists, the genetic scientists from BHU, and we are planning to, study the, the DNA of the, Koreans. And as Kim has mentioned, that nearly, 70%, in fact, Kims, they have the, Indian origin or they have the Indian genes in them. So maybe, scientifically, we will be like, we would like to mention about that. We'd like to study about that. Also, Kim, before I pass on to the next panelist, you have also worked in Myanmar. And one of the most iconic sites in Myanmar is Bagan, which has a very strong Indian connection. It's a Buddhist site. Would you like to say something about the site of Bagan that you have excavated?
After finishing PhD in India, after 10 years, because my teacher is there, he was too strict, so I spent almost 7 years to finish my PhD. So after that, before joining my today's present job in professor in Korea University, I worked almost 4 years in Southeast Asia as well as Pakistan. So I didn't know. For example, many Hindu saints, they reached in Laos and Vietnam, and we have tangible, epigraphic evidence. I never thought Hindu saints traveled that much far away. Of course, Buddhist saints came to even Japan also. There is a site name is Lao in Laos. It is a Champasak. It is now UNESCO World Heritage. So I worked to save some rescue mission over there. That is a very interesting site. I think it's the most eastern ancient Hindu site in the world, I think. But I mean, very few Indian archaeologists are aware of this site. It is in Laos, UNESCO site, Champasa. And we have Sanskrit inscription as well, mention about Indian, this Brahmin. As well as, of course, in Bagan, it's very close to Indian subcontinent. There is many interesting kind of replication of Bodh Gaya, this Mahabodh Gaya, actually exactly same. So I think that temple in Bagan will be some good, some monuments to show in Maritime Museum. It's one of the important some monuments in Asia, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now we have our neighbor from Sri Lanka and merchants traveling from west to the east and from east to the west. Would like to know more about your work in that part.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. And first of all, I want to thank the Indian government to invited me, and also Cindy sir. So several times I visited here. And Cindy sir, from morning to at this moment, every speaker talk about Sri Lanka. Everyone, at least one time they sounds as Sri Lanka. So I can't tell anything with the forgetting of India, because India and Sri Lanka is the same land. Maybe several thousand years ago, no two countries, just only one country, and at least 6,000 years ago. So that's why we have same culture and same habits and everything. And I would like to highlight only 2 points, sir. But before that, I will go with you to the Manthai. Manthai is the most oldest port Sri Lanka. It's activated 1,500 years. It's a very long time, and beginning to the up to Chola period, it started. And according to the legend, according to the historical document, or all the ships around the world, every port connect with the Manthai, and million of artifacts we found related to India, China, and rest of world. So it is the most activated one, and the large scale ship built and nearby Manthai. And Sri Lanka is a small island, but no one can forget that, because we, according to the strategical location, everyone should be touched at least on their up and down way. So that's why we were very important. And very nearly we marked 115 shipwreck sites. And I would like to bring 1 week shipwreck site with you. It is with Godawaya. Last month we exhibit Godawaya artifact after 2 decades later. That's the most oldest wooden shipwreck in the Indian Ocean. So it's dated back to 2,200 years. It's a 2nd century BC. And the important thing is, we don't know where it is come from. It's belong to Sri Lanka or other country. But in very recently, I found very interesting artifact in Patna, nearby our brother's museum. And suddenly, one person met in Patna. He said there is a stupa named Mahendra. Mahendra is the son of great king. He brought Buddhism to Sri Lanka, he and his sister. And I was wondering, and I went there, and I find some small stone benches. More than 10 small benches are there. It is same as it is benches we found in the Godawaya shipwreck site. So we have to think twice, and we have to make some deep research if there are any relation between the Patna stone benches and Godawaya benches. So if we find some clue, we can get the birth certificate of that shipwreck site. So we not confirm yet. Just I found this artifact. I'm working on that, and I think Sinsir will help me to continue this research. And another point I would like to share with you, some carnelian beads we found. It's 700 BC. We found in megalithic cemetery, Sinsir mentioned previously. Actually, we don't have that material in our island. it should be come from out of Sri Lanka because it is all the maritime. Without maritime, we can't talk anything because we are in the island. So there's beads, it's an ancient bead, it's nearly 3,000 years old. And we have to have some scientific research to find the beads. We have to revisit again on the bead. We found raw material and completed 1,000 of beads in Carnival. There's a two evidence I would like to share. Other thing, and Buddhism or culture, we can't talk without India. And so many Sri Lankan influence we can see in the Buddhist world in India. And all the Buddhist influence in Sri Lanka come from India. So that's the relation. And it's, we had good and bad so many memories. However, so many inventions come from India to Sri Lanka, Chola, Pandya, and Senagutika, some merchants, and so everywhere. But I want to mention a very important thing. However, the 2000 history, we had a very bad economic situation in last 2-3 years. At that time, Indian government and Indian people helped a lot us to get back to normal. So I would like to get the small chance to appreciate to all the Indian people and Indian government. And we can forget everything and we can reorganize again because you can't forget us. We can't forget you. That's the thing. So, Cindy sir, so if you have more time, we can share, but I don't know the time. We need at least several days to talk the relation between Sri Lanka and China. Even that, according to the legend Rama Ravana, and from that to present, we are born together. So thank you so much. If want something no more, so I can give some answer, but I don't know the time. Yes, sir. Thank you so much again, sir.
Thank you, Gamini. I am happy to know about your new research. And certainly, the Carlin has played a very important role in the trade, right from maybe 5,000 years, in fact, right from the Harappan times till today. And both, in fact, on the western side of India and also on the eastern side of India, the articles made of carnelian had a greater demand, and there was a great demand, maybe trade between different countries. So spices and carnelian goods, and also the textile, which is very important. So these are the important things, which were traded, for last almost 5,000 years, and there is a continuity in that. So we'll be happy to include some of the new information that you have from Sri Lanka. And the last speaker that we have is our friend. He's the director of National Maritime Museum, Mr. Augusto. And he will be, he's our, we have a collaboration, in fact, with Portuguese. The government has established formal collaboration with this museum also. And we know the contact between the Europeans and the Indians, which started, from the time Vasco da Gama landed, in fact, in India in 1498. And number of European powers, like, Portuguese came here, Dutch came here, Danish came here, French, and the English. And they all tried to have contact or the control over the coastal part of the country because they also realized the importance of the trade. And some developments, infrastructural activities also happen, in fact, on the coastal part. So we would like to know, in fact, maybe what kind of document that you have, in fact, related to the India and Portuguese contact in the museum that you are heading. And if you have some more information about the contact between Portuguese and India, we would like to know from you.
Thank you. Good afternoon to all. Thank you for a start for the invitation. I think it's important, the link between, and I think everyone in Portugal knows the link between Portugal and India. We all learned that in school, and so I think it's a strong and very important link between both nations. Of course, we have seen and we have been told the ancient links between India and Europe. Portugal opened a new route, a new maritime route that is still being used nowadays, a direct link between Europe and India. That made the difference. It doesn't mean that we have that much information, that many archives with information, unfortunately. I think it's a problem we have. We usually blame the earthquake of 1755 of destroying the archives of Casa de Goa, Casa de India, where the old information was there. But I was talking at lunch with some of my colleagues. One thing is the Carreira da India, the official trade route, where it belonged to the king, so they are records. But when we are going apart from that, for the individuals that did their trade, we don't have that information. We might find it by chance in some documentation by the priest or something, but otherwise it will be very, very difficult to find precise information. Because we know those that succeeded. For example, going all around the African coast, we know those that returned to the king and said, we found this, we crossed this cape, but we don't know all those that disappeared, as we don't know how many shipwrecks there are in the world from the Portuguese. We went all the way to Japan, and we don't know how many ships sank or were lost in those trips. We might find one every time. What we do know is that we left a long material and immaterial footprint all over, from wars to shipwrecks. That's something that we left. For example, we have two Portuguese Indian carracks at the entrance of Lisbon. Both of them still have pepper on them. Chinaware, of course. Unfortunately, no other cargo like clothes or anything, but still has pepper. We immediately identified those shipwrecks as a Portuguese ship coming from India. There's no other ships going out, or at least we don't have that information. But the Portuguese shipwreck from Carreira da India, we have that information. We might not know where all of them are, but we know that they exist and they went on that position. And I think that's what the 170,000 visitors that the museum has every year go to see in my museum. They want to see the link between India and the East and Europe. I think that's their main goal for visiting them. And that you are going to build a new major museum, and you must remember that although academics can do lots of papers, museums are the ones that reach to more people. So we have a responsibility when we do our museums to reach and to pass the right information to everybody. We cannot hide the information. We have to be as neutral as we can. It's not easy, but it's something we must do. And also we have to think which is the public, which is the target public. Is it local people or is it foreigners? We have to sometimes to adapt. Most of my visitors are foreigners, so I have to adapt. I have to catch their attention with things that it tells something to them, not just on our side. And as we are talking about the material, and we are talking about Korean War, we are preparing an exhibition about 6,000 people the Portugal saved from the oceans during World War II, both in the Atlantic, in the Indian Ocean, of course, in Mozambique. And we are now stepping at Portuguese, we don't know if they, well, Portuguese Indian from Goa, or all those places that we had here, because their surnames are Silva, are Portuguese surnames. And they were sailing on British ships, on other nations' ships. So there's still so much we have to study, so much we have to find about this link with the ocean, with the seas, even in the 20th century. So I think it's a never-ending project. We must not stop just by looking at the Carreira da India, the Indian run. We have to look all over, because the link between the countries are stronger even nowadays. Thank you.
So, Mr. Agosta, we, the Ministry of Port, Shipping and Waterways, established the first MOU with Portugal And they visited, the officials also visited the Portugal Museum, and we have identified some objects, which would like to have the replicas of those objects for the museum in Lothal. One of the galleries devoted, in Lothal is for the European arrivals of the Europeans. So there, we'd like to know, whether you have any maybe original documents about the, voyage that happened, between, maybe 1400 by the Vasco da Gama. And do you have any, maybe authentic data about the ship that he used? So we would like to know about that, because that is very important that, we have to have this authentic data from your side. So can you have some comments on that?
That's always a million-dollar question. Which ships exist? We have some scholars that say the ships were built in Oporto. Some others, they say they were built in Lisbon. Well, we have the names. That's a start. We know that 3 of them were carracks, small. They are going to grow in size until 2,000 tons in the 17th century, but in this time they were smaller. We have just found and studied one shipwreck by a scholar at the entrance of the river, but the second one we are just starting to study. We don't have that many information about Portuguese carracks. We know more about Roman shipwrecks than Portuguese carracks. We need to study them more. We need to find them more also. But we do have the treaties. The information we got confirms what the treaties say, although we don't know how the information flows from the writers to the masters on the shipyards or vice versa. So we don't know how it flows, but we know that what we found underwater is what the texts say. So that's a way ahead. But we might, I'm not a specialist on the Vasco da Gama trip and all the first years, but we have people either in the university, in the museums, that I'm sure can help. And I think for us it will be a pleasure and a duty to do something together to develop and to help you on your new museum.
Also, it is mentioned by some of the historians that when Vasco da Gama was traveling to India, he was helped by one Gujarati sailor, in fact, to come to India from the Arabian Sea. Any maybe authenticity in this particular information?
I believe you're talking about the pilot that helped Vasco da Gama.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. That's written on the sources of the time. And we have a map in Lisbon. Well, the original is in Italy, but we have a copy, and it's a 1502 map. And if you look at it, you can see all the way until South Africa. We know every detail, every cape, every entrance. It has a name. But when we turn to the Indian Ocean, we have very few information. And it's more or less precise until the Indian subcontinent. But all the rest to the east, we just know that exists. There was a place called Malacca, a strange form saying that it's India and Japan, but we didn't know anything. So we had some information until South Africa, very few on this part of the Indian Ocean. So it's for sure that he needed help to cross the ocean, to cross the Maldives Islands, to arrive safely to the Indian nation. It's a must. He didn't know. He had some information. The king had sent before some people from on land, but they weren't the sailors. So he needed someone who could help him, and that's true. We used a local pilot to guide him. Another immaterial link between two oceans, we can say that.
Yeah, thank you very much for this information. I think we have some maybe small questions to other panelists also. Kim, can I come back to you? You have done some work on the Buddhist maybe deities in Korea, and also the connection between India and Korea during the Buddhist time or the early Stoic period. So can you tell us, the audience, what kind of evidence about the Buddhist deities found in Korea? and whether there is maybe some kind of transformation happening in the maybe in the regional perspective.
Uh, so you mean about the iconography, sir? Actually, our some earliest Buddhist icon, mostly they very looks like a Gupta style, sir. So sometimes if you see so we have some very famous grottos. So many people believe at that time some Korean monk visited India, and he got some drawing, and based on that they make that. So if you see, especially like Sarnath Buddha, as well as the Ajanta Buddhas, it's very similar. Even he doesn't look like Koreans. Very different with other things. So maybe at the times our ancestors consider India as an original Buddhist nation. I mean, obviously, so more looks like Indian means more authentic. So we have so many Gupta style Buddhist icon, as well as Chinese and Korean local icon both as well. But earliest evidence goes for about the 3rd century AD. But according to our historical writing, some even Indian monk arrived, as well as our first international marriage. Princess He came with his brother, her brothers. So it is mentioned that brother was Buddhist monk. So very probably at the times they brought some stupa rather than so-called murti. So earliest our stupa looks like some earliest shape of stupa. So that I can tell.
So thank you for this. Nia, I'll just come back to you. You mentioned about the the education in the museum, and also that this subject should help the society also. So what kind of maybe work that you are doing which is helping the society? We'd like to know more about that, because we would like to incorporate this aspect in fact in our museum also in Lothal.
Yeah, thank you for the question, sir. In Indonesia, we have some the program about the maritime and underwater heritage. From the beginning, we always have the Rising Awareness Program and public education. Why this is very important for us in Indonesia? Because I already mentioned about the looting and plundering of the shipwreck site. So it's easier for the fishermen to take the artifacts from underwater. Especially now with the climate change, it's hard for them to get the fish. So if they found the shipwreck site, they will take it, they will loot it. So that's why then we think we should talk with the people, but not only the community, but also the government itself. Because so many government employees, the higher level also, they didn't pay attention to this underwater heritage. And you can imagine like the Belitung shipwreck, the one that you saw the boat in the screen, we found 60,000 artifacts from underwater, and it's sold to Singapore about $32 million. That is in 2005 or 2004. So you can imagine the price, the antiquities values that is so huge, and the local people, it's tempting for them to take this. And also not only the ship from ancient kingdoms like this one, because this is very old, from 9th century. But in Indonesia, we have the ship from the Second World War. In Indonesia, they're also plundering to take all the metal from the shipwreck site from the Second World War. This is a huge problem in Indonesia from 2014 until 2016. And Indonesia got a protest from UK, Netherlands, Australia, and US, United States, because their shipwreck site, their warship, like it's gone, all gone from underwater, because the metal scraper, they took all the shipwreck from underwater. So this is why we think that education public education is very important to local people and also to other government and all key stakeholders. So that's why in every program we have, we go to the site, we survey the site, we dive in that site, but then we show the local people, this is the shipwreck lies in your waters. This is the history, this is very important, like that one in Belitung, this connect Indonesia with China, with India, with Middle East. This is very important. And from that, so then we try to start some other follow-up program. For example, if the site is still, the condition of the site, for example, the ecosystem, underwater ecosystem are still good, so many marine lives there, coral system, then we can use the site for shipwreck tourism. So from here, we also educate people. We try to teach them that the heritage can benefit you for a long term. Rather than you take the artifact, you sell it, and then you just get like a few money, and then the money just gone for fulfilling the daily needs. But if you use this for shipwreck tourism, for historical shipwreck tourism, and we in the government, we also help them. We provide like a training for underwater, like underwater training, artifact conservation training, and also we train the local youth, young people, so they, we give them like a diving training for them. So they can be a guide. They can be a diving guide for the shipwreck located in their waters. So here we can generate the local economy, we can, and also the government, but this is also need a commitment from the government. So we have to support the local people, we provide infrastructure, what they need beside the training and also the education system. But we also have to provide, like, if we want to use this shipwreck site for shipwreck tourism, what they need. Perhaps, for example, perhaps they need like a floating ponton, diving equipment. So in Indonesia, we also try to provide that. So not only the public education, but we also have some other programs. So the maritime heritage program in Indonesia, not only researching the site, it's not enough. For me, I don't believe that heritage is only for us, the archaeologists, not only for our expanding our knowledge about the history from the past. No, for me, we need to use this heritage to improve the people's life there. So that's why education is important, raising awareness is important, and also the commitment from the local government, from the government in the central government is very important.
So thank you very much. I think now we will be collaborating with you, and we would like to take your help in fact, in developing this aspect in fact at the National Maritime Museum in Lothal. For your information, we have very special guest today, Sanjeev Sanyal, and he's holding a very high position in the office of the Prime Minister, but he has a lot of interest, in the this maritime trade and the traditional boat building. So he has got one boat made, in fact, the Stitch boat made through the local craftsman, and he's planning to travel, in fact, in that boat first from Gujarat to Oman, and next, he's traveling from Orissa, from Kalinga to Bali, to your place, and he's here in Vietnam. If you want to say some few words about your project, you will be speaking about that. So you'll be speaking about that. So maybe you can interact. And the last question that I would like to ask you, we all know that Mahendra and Sanghamitra traveled to Sri Lanka. So what was the culture in fact contemporary to this Mahendra and Sri Lanka, Mahendra and Sanghamitra in Sri Lanka?
So you asked that what is the impact? So everything, in fact, from the Mahendra and Sanghamitra, everything in Sri Lanka, birth to the death of all Buddhist people in Sri Lanka impacted by Mahendra and Sanghamitra, that brother and sister. Even very recently we found that the stupa of Mahendra, Sindhisa and the Deccan scholars came to there and for the excavation. And according to the historical legend, we know very well the Buddhism come from India, and Mahendra and Sanghamitra came to Sri Lanka. And archaeologically, it's proved because of we found some inscription related to the written in third century BC, and it's proof they are come from India, and also he passed away in Sri Lanka. And not only the death, after death, maybe several years, 10, 20 years, still influencing the Buddhism to our people. Everywhere, wedding or the funeral or maybe harvesting time, every time influenced by the Mahendra and Sanghamitra. We can't divide anything from that. Thank you, sir.
And one last question to you, sir. Not question, but we'd like to have a lot of data from Andaman Nicobar, and we have one gallery, in fact, traditional shipbuilding techniques of India. So where we would like to display some of the models of the traditional ships found, in fact, in boats and ships found in Andaman Nicobar, and we don't have much data, in fact, about that region, in fact. So if you can, enlighten us more about what kind of data can be displayed, in fact, in the you have spoken about that. Would like to know more about what kind of data that from Andaman Nicobar would like to maybe display, in fact, in our Maritime Museum in Lothal.
In fact, I mentioned about two facts in the presentation. One was that the last year we got the GI tag for that particular Hodi, which is called Hodi there, canoe. And the second fact was related to it's a one log construction. So it is carved out of a log. And Rashtriya Manav Sangrahalaya of Bhopal, one particular, that canoe has been donated there 25 years back. When at that time I was deputy commissioner there, so I have that memory of that time. And so the skill, craft related to this construction of this canoe, which is now GI tag also, is very much available, and we will, in our pavilion itself, we can provide that particular thing also, and wherever you suggest that. Yeah?
Thank you very much. And fortunately, we have the descendants of the Angre family. The Kanoji Angre's family, this Raghujiraja Angre is here. And I'm sure that a lot of original objects from that period are with you. So will you be able to give some objects, original objects for Lothal, in fact? We have one Maratha gallery, Maratha Naval Power. And you are part of that, in fact. You are been helping us, you have been guiding us, in fact, for developing this particular gallery. So do you have some, some comments to say about, what kind of objects will be coming from your side to this museum?
Good evening, sir. I have certain objects as well. The typical Angre coin, which is as of now not available very much. I'm in talk with a person, and I'll see to it that within next few weeks, that is with me, and that is my gift to museum from my side. That Alibagi Rupiah or Shri Rupiah, which is a rare find. So fortunately I have found one, and I'll see to it that it goes to National Maritime Heritage Museum.
Okay, and also we'll need your help, in fact, maybe
Sure.
input about, because we want to create the replicas of the different kinds of maybe ships and boats used by Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj for the warfare purpose. Maybe for authenticity purpose, maybe we will come to you, and we will have some more data on that. So I think with this we stop here. I would like to thank all the panelists, in fact, those who spoke in the morning and those who spoke just now, and whatever new input that we have got from them. We have got some new information, and most of the new information that we have, based on the actual, hardcore research, that will go, in fact, in different galleries. Because as I mentioned earlier, all the content that we have developed, in fact, in different galleries, from 1 to 14, it is all based on the, hardcore research done by scholars like, those who spoke today. And this is the most authentic data that we have collected, and some more data that we will be collecting that will also be, maybe enhancing the authenticity of the, museum galleries, in fact, in Lothal. So I thank all of you for this particular, your efforts, your inputs for this particular museum. And I think, I take all the opportunity to thank all of you. And you have come all the way from different countries, to, give us this input. So thank you very much, So on behalf of the, Minister of Port, Shipping and Waterways, on behalf of, maybe the, this IPCR, and my own behalf, in fact, I thank all of you. And all of you, thank you very much for this. Thank you.
Before closing this panel discussion, we would like to present mementos as token of gratitude and appreciation to all the experts seated on the dais. Could I request Sri Mukesh Mangalji, Joint Secretary? There he is. Mukeshji, you're needed here. So there we have Sri Mukesh Mangal, Joint Secretary, National Maritime Heritage Complex, Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Government of India. Let us begin with Ms. Nia Naulul Hasna Ridwan, Maritime Archaeologist, Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries. Dr. Ahmed Badruddin Gadel Mawala. Badruddin.
Badruddin Jad Al Mawla.
Okay, I have this wrong then. I get it corrected. Thank you, Mr. Gamini Ranasinghe, Professor Sri Jayawardhanepura University, Sri Lanka. Dr. Kim Yong-yun, archaeologist, Korea University, the Republic of Korea. Mr. Augusto Antonio Alves Salgado, Director, Museo de Marina, Lisbon, Portugal. Mr. W. Rahothan, archaeologist, Underwater Archaeology, Department of Fine Arts and Ministry of Culture, Thailand. Thank you, thank all the panelists for that absolutely engaging deliberation. And we would also like to felicitate Dr. Chandrabhushan Kumar, Chief Secretary, Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Sir, if you could please. And Dr. K. Manivasan, Additional Chief Secretary, TCNRE Department, Tamil Nadu. And how can we forget our moderator, Professor Dr. Vasant Shinde, Chief of Galleries, National Maritime Heritage Complex. Yes, thank you for that round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. We close this session. Thank you, Mukeshji. And we get directly into the valedictory, if you are ready, sir, or we take a moment. Remain seated, ladies and gentlemen. We are not breaking. We are diving straight into the closing session. Okay, so we are awaiting the arrival of Shri Shantanu Thakurji, Honorable Minister of State for Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Government of India. We already have Dr. Sanjeev Sanyal with us. Just give us a moment and we will be ready to begin his keynote.
Controls this. I can show some photos of the ship and my own training. I've just come from the. Yeah, I can WhatsApp it to whoever is the controller of the. Hi, Amish Shauru. Hello, Shauru. Oh, yes, I.
कोई ऑप्शन भी नहीं है, सब भरा हुआ है। पूरे हॉल का बंद करवा देते हैं थोड़ी देर। इतना ठंडा हो चुका है कि ये कल सुबह तक ठंडा ही रहने वाला है। किसी को पता नहीं चलेगा कि बंद हो गया। अरे जगह ही नहीं है। और तुम्हारे पास कौन सा ऑप्शन है? तो ऑप्शन ही नहीं।
Let's welcome him with a resounding of claps, ladies and gentlemen. So could I request you to kindly take your seat on the dais? I also request Dr. Sanjeev Sanyal, member EACPM, author and economic historian, to please be seated, along with Shri R.K. Sinha, Special Secretary, Minister. Yes, there is Shri Sinha, who's the Special Secretary, Ministry of Port, Shipping and Waterways, Government of India. Ladies and gentlemen, could I request you to please settle down quickly and do ensure your cell phones are on the silent V. I also welcome Shri Mukesh Mangal, Joint Secretary, NMHC, MOPSW, Government of India. So, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to everybody. It gives me, Manasi, immense delight in extending a hearty welcome to the Honorable Minister, all you esteemed guests, distinguished dignitaries, invitees, delegates for the valedictory session. As we all know, the Maritime Heritage Day was inaugurated in the morning, of course, in Hall 6 by Shri Sarbanand Sonowal ji, Honorable Minister of Port, Shipping and Waterways, Government of India. And here we are now towards the end of the day, getting into the valedictory session by requesting Dr. Sanjeev Sanyal, member EACPM, author and economic historian, for the keynote address. Dr. Sanjeev Sanyal.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, dignitaries on the stage and in the audience. A very good afternoon to all of you. So it is a great pleasure to speak here. In the last, I would say, 24 months, I would say, the profile of maritime-related activities in this country has dramatically gone up, and some of that credit, of course, goes to the ministry and to the Honorable Minister Shantanu Thakurji, who is here. We were just discussing that only 24 to 18 months ago, we were thinking about how we can make progress on various shipping, shipbuilding, ports, and so on. And the fact that India somehow had this sea blindness. Now, India, as I will talk about shortly, has a very long maritime history going back thousands of years, back to the Bronze Age. But unfortunately, post-independence, we really ignored this sector. But I think many of you who have been engaged in this in the last 24 months will agree that this has really changed. And it's changed in multiple ways, whether it's in the induction of a large number of Navy ships into the Navy recently, the complete overhaul of maritime and shipping related laws, which has happened in just in the last 12 months, huge 70,000 crore package that has been put together to encourage shipbuilding and the marine sector, not to mention giving infrastructure status to ships. All of this has really transformed this sector, and I think events like the one we are attending right now, and not just this event here, I have just come from another event, Sagar Manthan, which is happening in Trident Hotel. So the whole city is involved in multiple events, bringing maritime awareness in this country in a way I think we had not done for many decades. So let me say, since I've been called here as much as a government official as a historian, that one of the efforts that we have tried to make in terms of getting maritime consciousness here, which you heard in the previous session, was to actually build a maritime museum, as you know. And it's being built in Lothal, which was had a dry dock and a customs point. It was not, and I have some dispute with historians on this, it was not a port. In my view, the port was always Dholavira. This was actually a customs check. For those heading up the coast and heading to Dholavira, which was the main port. But anyway, this massive maritime museum that's coming up is great, because there's a great way of bringing together our maritime heritage and teaching it, first remembering it, documenting it, and then teaching it to the next generation. So as part of this effort, I have in the last few years, of course, I've written books and given talks, but there is an interesting project that some of you may be aware of, which is to actually build an ancient Indian ship. So some years ago, almost 6, 7 years ago, I began to look at what was the earliest Indian ship that we could credibly rebuild or reconstruct. So of course we know that Harappan ships during the Bronze Age were going to the Middle East, but we do not have a good idea of what these ships look like. We have some images of river boats, but river boats, as those of you who know anything about maritime, have a very distinctive look. They are flat-bottomed. They just wouldn't be able to go into open ocean. So although sometimes historians try to use riverboats as depictions of ocean-going ships, they just wouldn't be able to do it. So that didn't work. So I kept looking, and so the earliest depictions I could find were Satvahana era coins and a painting in Ajanta, which is from about the 4th century. So this a 2nd century Satvahana coin, 1st, 2nd century Satvahana coin, and a depiction in Ajanta of a fairly large and detailed painting. And then, of course, there were other texts. There were descriptions of travelers who came to India. And then there are some ancient texts which mention how these ships were, which was in the Yukti Kalpataru, which some of you may be aware of. So these, in my view, broadly tell you can triangulate to get a sense of what an ancient Indian ship may have looked like circa 4th century AD. So using this, I began to then try to work out what this design could be, and with the help of a naval architect, Hemant Kumar, who's not here, I began to then design such a ship. I happened to then bump into the traditional Indian shipwright called Babu Sankaran, who had, by the way, been part of an Omani effort to reconstruct ship from a later period, from the 10th, 11th century. But nevertheless, he also had some idea of how to build ships using a stitch ship technique. Now this is important, that ancient Indian ships were not nailed together, they were stitched together. And this technique is almost died out. We still build some very small boats about the size of this table using this. But Babu Sankaran had been taught by his grandparents when he was young some of the rules of thumb about building a larger ship. He had, as I said, also been part of the Jewel of Muscat project for Oman. So he had some experience in the matter. But again, there was an urgency in it because Babu Sankaran is not a young man. And his son and grandchildren are not interested in learning this. So we are very quickly losing memory of how these ships could be made. So putting all of this together, I then created a design during about the COVID period to try and build such a ship. And so I then took this plan up to the Honorable Prime Minister one day and said, "Sir, would you support the cause of building something like this?" So he looked at me, then he was a little silent for a moment and said, "Karo, lekin doobna mat." So with that encouragement, I then took this to the Culture Ministry, and they were very supportive, and they have something called Project Mausam, and they said they'll fund it. But of course, they don't have any expertise in this. So I then took this to the Navy, who were also very supportive. So with the joint effort, funding from Culture Ministry and the technical support from the Indian Navy, we then chose Hodi, which is a shipbuilder in Goa, to try and build this ship. You may be seeing some of these pictures being flipped, and so you can get a sense of this. So starting 2023, we began to build this ship in Hodi in Goa, in Diwar Island. And it took us about almost 2 years to actually build the ship. As you can see, the ship is now been fully constructed. It is in the water. We put it in the water in May. It was then christened as INSV Kaundinya. It is named, by the way, after the first Indian mariner of whom we know of name. So there was an ancient Indian mariner called Kaundinya, who some 2,000 odd years ago, sailed to the Mekong Delta, which is now Cambodia, southern Vietnam, that general area. He married a local girl called Soma, a warrior princess, and he sent up the first Hindu kingdom in that part of the world. So he is very much remembered in that part of the world. Unfortunately, not in our part of the world, but since he's so well remembered, we decided that we will name this ship INSV Kaundinya. It is as much a part of the Indian Navy as the aircraft carrier. And I have just spent 1 week in Karwar in the naval base training on how to try and sail the ship. Let me say that it handles decently well in open ocean. And now the plan is in December to sail it to Oman, from Gujarat to Oman. There'll be a crew of 15 experienced sailors from the Indian Navy and 1 random economist who will be attempting to make this crossing. And the idea is, one, to attempt this. This will be about a 2 to 3 week crossing that we will do. So people on the stage can't see the photographs, but I hope you can see it in the audience can see these photographs. There's some photographs of us training till day before yesterday as well. And we are now basically taking this ship, we'll be towing the ship up to Porbandar. And then around about 7th, sir, you're very invited. If you're free around about that time, then the exact date is given out. And we will be setting sail. The crossing will be 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the wind. And then if that is successful, we will take it to the other coast next year in Kartik Purnima and attempt to sail it to Bali. Now that is a much more complicated voyage of about 3 months, because you see these ships don't have anything modern in it. Other than some safety equipment, it does not have a rudder. It's got a trailing oar, a steering oar. You can see that its hull is stitched, it doesn't have nails, so it's flexible. So when it hits a big wave, the whole hull caves in and caves out. And it doesn't have lateen sails. It has got square sails, which means you can't sail at an angle to the wind. You have to sail with the wind. So all of this dramatically complicates how to sail it. In fact, till we attempted to sail it, no living person had, for hundreds of years, nobody had sailed such a ship. So we are ourselves learning how it works. So hopefully with the experience of sailing it to Oman, we will be able to sail it to Bali. That is, of course, a 3-month voyage. Because remember, we will have to first sail it from Odisha to Mahabalipuram. From Mahabalipuram, which was also a port, by the way, you have to take it to Sri Lanka. From Sri Lanka, you have to take it further south to make the ocean crossing using the currents. It's not done using winds, by the way. That ocean crossing from Sri Lanka to Sumatra is actually done by current, which is why it takes almost 5-6 weeks to do that crossing. And then after that, you have to make a choice whether to go down the Malacca Straits route or go down along the outside of Sumatra, Java, and then to go. Although technically it might be, in ancient times have been easier to do it down the Malacca Straits, in modern times it's actually quite risky because it's a very heavy shipping traffic. And do remember, one of the risks that we will have, not just in Malacca, but even in my trip to Oman, is actually not the weather, but other ships. You see large oil tankers heading towards me, and if they don't see me in the dark at night, they are probably a much bigger risk to me than a big typhoon. Getting run over by a large oil tanker will not be helpful. And I have, as you can tell, no way of changing course. I don't have an engine. I can't sail at an angle to the wind. So I just have to hope that the oil tankers see me. So, of course, so therefore I have to carry some modern safety lights and things. But it'll be difficult enough sailing to Oman, but sailing on the Malacca Straits will be really tough. In fact, the Jewel of Muscat, the Omani captain, Captain Saleh, said that he rather preferred Bay of Bengal storms to the crossing through the Malacca Straits. He thought that was absolutely nerve-wracking because day in and day out there were these ships going past him in both directions. And you know, the wake from some of these large oil tankers can be quite scary to a small, you know, small wooden boat. Anyway, so this is the plan. And after this voyage, we intend to donate this ship. By the way, not me, it's the Indian Navy. So Indian Navy intends to donate that ship to the Maritime Museum in Lothal. So many of you can go and have a look at it. 2027, hopefully we will. So you have to create some space for it, so, you know, for this ship to be able to be anchored there. And then if you can convince somebody to fund me, I will then make a Maratha period ship. I have the plans roughly for it. I'm sorry, the Angre family doesn't have the plans, I do. So I have got a rough idea how we can build them. The Bharatiya Itihas Sankshodhan Mandal has some depictions of they have that long thing. So I have had a look at that, and I have had a look at some of the other designs from that period. So, but those ships are from the 18th century, and they are nailed ships using European designs. So they are a lot easier to make, but they are a lot superior. So those ships can actually be sailed. We can continue sailing them for a long period. The problem with my stitch ship is that the stitching will after a couple of years will simply rot. So I will not be able to sail it for too long, 2-3 years at most, and then that ship has to be simply donated. But maybe the Angre ship can be then kept in permanent service, or maybe even turned into a tourist ship. I don't know, we'll have to discuss that. So I do have the plans for that as well. But with that, let me stop and hand it back to the moderator.
Hello.
Check. All right. So, yes, that was a thunderous round of applause for Dr. Sanjeev Sanyalji. And could I request Shri Mukesh Mangalji to please felicitate Dr. Sanjeev Sanyal with a memento? Let us put our hands together one more time for Dr. Sanyal. And now, could I request Shri R.K. Sinha, Special Secretary, Ministry of Port Shipping and Waterways, for a special address.
Hello.
I can sit and address?
Yes, absolutely, sir.
Honorable Minister of State for Port Shipping and Waterways, Shri Shantanu Thakur, sir. Dr. Sanjeev Sanyal, member of the EACPM. My esteemed colleagues on the dais and off the dais, and very special participants of this session. So we are basically an infrastructure ministry. I understand road, bridges, ships, ports, terminals, all of us. But this is one segment which takes me to a different world. I have never experienced anything of archaeology, marine archaeology, maritime archaeology, or even maritime itself. But it will give you a goosebump of a lifetime if you go and visit Lothal. Just go to that place, and if somebody narrates you about that, the history of that place, and whatever remaining places are there, I have visited that place thrice with Honorable Minister, and I stayed probably one night there with Professor Shinde. But the way, and him and his team, and they're all masters in archaeology. They are passed out from various universities. So I was generally inquiring about the employment prospects of archaeologists in India. How good is the prospect in India? And how many archaeologists pass out every year in Indian universities? So it did not give a, unlike the IT sector and the other sectors, the respect, or let's say the opportunities that this very refined way of thinking is required is yet to evolve here, which I noticed that day. When I was going through the whole space, and one of the young officers, one archaeologist from his team, he was taking me along. Then I realized that it needs a lot of support in the academic world and also in the community. And that is why what Dr. Sanyal has just narrated it gives a different dimension to what this sector is about. If we present this the way you presented, sir, to young students and in college and schools, this will inspire the young students, school-going children. Maybe we have this, we have recently starting, sir, this 10 bagless days. There is a scheme of Ministry of Education. So we are almost on the verge of finalizing, including maritime sector as one of the hobbies in the 10 bagless days in the schools. But still, it cannot match the archaeology. Sir.
Just one thing. Don't make it entirely bagless, because I have actually have the advantage of writing the history and social sciences textbook, and I have included a lot of maritime things in it. So, so don't entirely make it bagless.
Yes, sir, the point is very well made, sir. Actually, the only that we reduce the burden of rote learning, the class textbooks, etc., and just take them to the other world, a very refined way of thinking things. And recently we were in Bhavnagar, sir, when Honorable PM was there, and the interest that he has in this project is unmatched. The time he gave for this project, and everybody was sitting there is spellbound the way he understood the project. He could get into the details of every project, details of the ancient history, the history of this archaeological site. This is matchless. Now coming back to this session, I'm reading from the written text. Kindly excuse me for this. First of all, let me extend my deepest gratitude to all who made this Maritime Heritage Day a meaningful one. It's a celebration, and the celebration has been made memorable and meaningful. This celebration is started with a mesmerizing performance of Samudra Manthan, choreographed by Padma Bhushan Srimati Sonal Mansingh ji. And the inaugural session today was honored by the presence of Honorable Minister for Port Shipping Waterways, Shri Sarbanand Sonowal sir, Honorable Minister of State, Shri Shantanu Thakur sir, Srimati Pabitra Parida, Deputy Chief Minister of Odisha, our respected Secretary sir, Shri Vijay Kumar sir. And this was followed by a panel discussion on India's maritime connections that brought to life thoughtful dialogue, scholarly insights, and the spirit of collaboration that defines our maritime heritage. The subsequent session on shared civilizational legacy was graced by a keynote address from Chief Secretary of Andaman and Nicobar Island and Additional Chief Secretary from Tamil Nadu, and the presence of international experts from Portugal, Thailand, Indonesia, Egypt, Korea, and Sri Lanka re-emphasized the cultural and historical ties that bind nations across oceans. And today the session has just ended with a maritime journey, such an exhilarating journey and narration by Dr. Sanjeev Sanyal. It is evident that the Maritime Heritage Day is a success, and we shall be using the learnings in the development of National Maritime Heritage Complex in Lothal. A special thanks to our leadership for inspiring us and for announcing a visionary appeal to the maritime industry and global investors to support the development of the National Maritime Heritage Complex at Lothal. As we move forward, let us carry the spirit of this day with us, committed to preserving our past, enriching our present, and shaping a maritime future that is inclusive, innovative, and makes us proud. Thank you once again. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Sanaji, for your special remarks in celebration of the National Maritime Heritage Day. I now request Shri Shantanu Thakurji, Honorable Minister of State for Port Shipping and Waterways, to address this august gathering on this significant occasion.
Namaskar. Respected Sanjeev Sanalji, Member EAC PM. Respected R.K. Sinha ji, Special Secretary PSW. Respected Mukesh Mangalji, JS PSW, respected dignitaries, esteemed delegates, scholars, and maritime professionals. I give thanks to all of you. It is very interesting that maritime heritage subject, naturally, it was just known as a shipbuilding, ship repairing, recycling. But maritime heritage, totally different subject, and which brought our Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister and his team. So I think totally different subject came into the maritime subject. So I'm very much being interested when I listen maritime heritage, and also we were visited with the Prime Minister, sir. Our team also went there. So we are very much happy that all the countries where is a maritime subject actually popular, they are firstly just listen that the 4,000 years, 5,000 years back history can reform again, and it can be a scene in the maritime history in Lothal. So we are very much happy for that subject brought by especially our Prime Minister and his team. It is truly a privilege to address you at the conclusion of this enriching celebration of Maritime Heritage Day. Today has been a powerful reminder of India's deep-rooted maritime legacy and its enduring relevance to our global story. The theme, India's maritime connections and the shared civilization legacy, has beautifully guided our reflections and discussions throughout the day. Through the insightful panels and thoughts-provoking keynotes address, we have revisited and cultural and commercial bridge. Our ancestors built across oceans, bridge, and connected not only land but hearts and minds. These exchanges reforms that maritime heritage is not merely about ship and ports. It is about people, ideas, and shared histories. It is about how the sea has shaped civilization and continues to connect us even today. As Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has said, from trade to traditions, from art to architecture, our maritime strength has been the foundation of India's prosperity. The time has come to revive that ancient glory through modern vision. From Sagar Se Samriddhi to building a future where everything from chief to chief is made in India. I commend the ministry and all our partners for their dedicated efforts to developing the Nation Maritime Heritage Complex at Lothal, a truly visionary project that will preserve celebrate and inspire future generation with India's seafaring spirit. Let us move forward together with the resolve that India's maritime heritage is not only remembered but reimagined for this future. With that word, I'm concluding. Before concluding, I like to say I was very much astonished that when I just discussed with Sanalji about the shipbuilding, that shipbuilding can build us very highly by our environment and geographically position. And Sanalji already made it possible after few months that shipbuilding is already, become a very much popular, and PM also interested. That's why I'm giving you thanks. Because previously it wasn't like this popular, but after discussion, Sanalji talked to PM sir, and really I am happy for that, because when China can beat the world, so our geography can also beat the world by the shipbuilding sector. No, thank you.
Thank you for those valedictory remarks, inspiring us to surge ahead on the growth trajectory of this arena. And of course, the sector now. Well, with that, could I request Mukesh Mangal, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Port Shipping and Waterways, Government of India, to please propose the closing remarks.
Respected Sri Shantanu Thakur Sahab, Honorable Minister of State, Port Shipping and Waterways, Sri Rajesh Kumar Sinha Sir, Special Secretary, Ministry of Port Shipping and Waterways, Sri Sanjeev Sanyal Sir, Member Economic Advisory Council to Honorable PM. Sir, we thank all of you for sparing your valuable time for this valedictory session. Sir, with this we come to the end of India Maritime Heritage Day at IMW 2025. Sir, I am grateful to Sri Sarvanand Sonwalji, our beloved Honorable Minister, our Sri Shantanu Thakurji, beloved Minister of State, and then our Secretary Sir, for encouraging and guiding us to celebrate this India Maritime Heritage Day during IMW 2025. Without their blessing, sir, it was really not possible to conduct this day, sir. And we think that we were able to manage it successfully. I am also grateful to our Indian and foreigner experts and panelists who came to this day all the way from across the world, taking all the pains and then delivering their addresses to us both technical sessions. I also express my heartfelt thanks to all the audiences. They were with us right from morning today, sir. The organizers, especially IPRCL, our MD IPRCL, and NMSC, and Mr. Shinde, Mr. Aniket, who worked day and night for this day, sir. And with this, I also thanks once again to all for making this India Maritime Heritage Day successful. Thank you very much.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we conclude the Maritime Heritage Day. Thank you all for being a wonderfully lovely audience, and have a great evening ahead. Thank you.